Commander Eric Mason stared at the message on his screen, his face grim. After 3 years of negotiations, the peace talks with the Galactic Council had collapsed. He closed his eyes briefly, remembering all the wasted hours, the diplomatic missions, the compromises that Earth had offered. None of it had mattered in the end. "Sir," Lieutenant Olivia Clark stood at attention near his desk. "The President is waiting for your assessment." "Tell her I'll be there in 5 minutes," Eric replied, gathering his notes. The weight of what was coming settled on his shoulders. 3 years ago, when humanity first encountered the Council's scout ships near Jupiter, they had been excited. First contact had seemed like a dream. Advanced civilizations offering friendship and technology. What they got instead were patronizing lectures and thinly veiled threats. The Council, a confederation of 17 spacefaring species, had welcomed humans with the enthusiasm of someone greeting an annoying distant relative. Humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too emotional. Every meeting ended with the same conclusion. Earth would be welcome in galactic society only as a protected planet, effectively under alien supervision. Eric hurried through the corridors of the Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. Officers and analysts moved with purpose, already sensing the change in the air. The diplomatic team had returned from Centauri Prime yesterday, their expressions telling the story before they'd said a word. The conference room doors slid open. President Allison Wright sat at the head of the table, flanked by the 12 members of the Global Defense Committee. "Commander," she acknowledged, "give us your military assessment if the Council carries through with their threats." Eric activated the holographic display. The Council has 17 member species, but only 8 have significant military capacity. Their technology exceeds ours in FTL travel, energy generation, and shield systems. However, he highlighted several sections of data. "We've discovered critical weaknesses in their weapon targeting systems and communication protocols." "Can we defend Earth if they attack?" asked General Kate Rodriguez. "Not conventionally," Eric admitted. "But we've been preparing alternatives since the talks started going sideways last year." The room grew quiet. Everyone knew what those alternatives were. Secret military installations on Mars and Europa, experimental weapons based on reversed-engineered alien tech, and hidden fleets constructed in asteroid bases. "The Council has given us 48 hours to accept protected status," President Wright said. "Their terms would limit our military, restrict our technological development, and place Council advisors in our government." "Occupation by another name," muttered Defense Secretary Joe Bennett. The President nodded. "I've read your recommendations. It's time to vote." One by one, the committee members voted. The decision was unanimous. "Very well," said President Wright. "Earth formally withdraws from the Galactic Council peace negotiations, effective immediately." She turned to Eric. "Commander Mason, initiate Operation Shadowfall. All military assets to standby alert." "Yes, Madam President." Across the solar system, hidden bases came alive. On Luna, the new quantum communications array activated, connecting Earth's defenses through channels the Council couldn't detect. In the asteroid belt, stealth shipyards increased production. Deep beneath Europa's ice, the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created were readied for deployment. Publicly, Earth's representatives requested an extension to consider the Council's terms. Privately, every available resource shifted to war footing. That night, Eric stood at the window of his quarters, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council races were celebrating what they thought was another primitive species being brought to heel. "They don't understand us at all," he whispered to himself. "They never bothered to try." The Galactic Council had made a critical error in their calculations. They had mistaken human patience for weakness and human diplomacy for surrender. They would learn their mistakes soon enough. Commander Eric Mason stared at the message on his screen, his face grim. After 3 years of negotiations, the peace talks with the Galactic Council had collapsed. He closed his eyes briefly, remembering all the wasted hours, the diplomatic missions, the compromises that Earth had offered. None of it had mattered in the end. "Sir," Lieutenant Olivia Clark stood at attention near his desk. "The President is waiting for your assessment." "Tell her I'll be there in 5 minutes," Eric replied, gathering his notes. The weight of what was coming settled on his shoulders. 3 years ago, when humanity first encountered the Council's scout ships near Jupiter, they had been excited. First contact had seemed like a dream. Advanced civilizations offering friendship and technology. What they got instead were patronizing lectures and thinly veiled threats. The Council, a confederation of 17 spacefaring species, had welcomed humans with the enthusiasm of someone greeting an annoying distant relative. Humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too emotional. Every meeting ended with the same conclusion. Earth would be welcome in galactic society only as a protected planet, effectively under alien supervision. Eric hurried through the corridors of the Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. Officers and analysts moved with purpose, already sensing the change in the air. The diplomatic team had returned from Centauri Prime yesterday, their expressions telling the story before they'd said a word. The conference room doors slid open. President Allison Wright sat at the head of the table, flanked by the 12 members of the Global Defense Committee. "Commander," she acknowledged, "give us your military assessment if the Council carries through with their threats." Eric activated the holographic display. "The Council has 17 member species, but only 8 have significant military capacity. Their technology exceeds ours in FTL travel, energy generation, and shield systems. However," he highlighted several sections of data, "we've discovered critical weaknesses in their weapon targeting systems and communication protocols." "Can we defend Earth if they attack?" asked General Kate Rodriguez. "Not conventionally," Eric admitted, "but we've been preparing alternatives since the talks started going sideways last year." The room grew quiet. Everyone knew what those alternatives were. Secret military installations on Mars and Europa, experimental weapons based on reversed engineered alien tech, and hidden fleets constructed in asteroid bases. "The Council has given us 48 hours to accept protected status," President Wright said. "Their terms would limit our military, restrict our technological development, and place Council advisors in our government." "Occupation by another name," muttered Defense Secretary Joe Bennett. The President nodded. "I've read your recommendations. It's time to vote." One by one, the committee members voted. The decision was unanimous. "Very well," said President Wright. "Earth formally withdraws from the Galactic Council peace negotiations, effective immediately." She turned to Eric. "Commander Mason, initiate Operation Shadowfall. All military assets to standby alert." "Yes, Madam President." Across the solar system, hidden bases came alive. On Luna, the new quantum communications array activated, connecting Earth's defenses through channels the Council couldn't detect. In the asteroid belt, stealth shipyards increased production. Deep beneath Europa's ice, the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created were readied for deployment. Publicly, Earth's representatives requested an extension to consider the Council's terms. Privately, every available resource shifted to war footing. That night, Eric stood at the window of his quarters, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council races were celebrating what they thought was another primitive species being brought to heel. "They don't understand us at all," he whispered to himself. "They never bothered to try." The Galactic Council had made a critical error in their calculations. They had mistaken human patience for weakness and human diplomacy for surrender. They would learn their mistakes soon enough. Captain Lisa Reynolds stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiant, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The massive alien blockade stretched across Neptune's orbit like a wall of steel and energy. 500 Council warships against Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet of 67 vessels. "They're hailing us again," reported Communications Officer Ben Miller. "Same message as before." "Ignore it," Lisa ordered. "All ships maintain formation." The Council ultimatum had been simple: turn back or be destroyed. But humanity had spent the last 3 years preparing for this moment, knowing the peace talks were likely to fail. Vuldarian dreadnought moving to intercept, announced Tactical Officer Greg Wilson. Energy signatures indicate weapons charging. Lisa nodded calmly. Activate Phantom protocols. Deploy countermeasures. Throughout the Earth fleet, hidden systems came online. Technology that had been developed in secret, using principles reverse-engineered from limited contact with alien vessels. The Council had never shared their advanced tech willingly, but human scientists had learned much from observing the alien ships. The Vuldarian dreadnought, nearly 3 times the size of the Defiant, moved forward, escorted by a dozen smaller vessels. They're firing warning shots, Greg reported as bright energy pulses flashed in the void ahead of them. Now, Lisa commanded. The Defiant suddenly vanished from alien sensors. The Phantom system, Earth's greatest technological achievement, bent energy around the ship, creating perfect sensor invisibility. Not mere stealth, but complete electronic erasure. The alien commander's confused voice came through on an open channel. Where did they go? Find them. All ships. Execute Battle Plan Echo. Lisa transmitted to the Earth fleet. Weapons free. 67 Earth vessels disappeared from Council sensors. When they reappeared, they were among the alien fleet, firing from positions of tactical advantage. The Defiant emerged behind the Vuldarian dreadnought. Lisa gave the order, and the ship fired its quantum disruptors, weapons that didn't exist according to Council scientific understanding. The energy beams struck with surgical precision, disabling the dreadnought's engines and weapon systems without destroying the vessel. Throughout the blockade line, similar scenes played out. Earth ships would vanish, reappear in unexpected positions, strike with pinpoint accuracy, and vanish again before the aliens could respond effectively. They're trying to adapt, Greg warned. Secondary vessels are deploying wide-spectrum energy fields. Lisa smiled slightly, just as we expected. Execute Phase 2. The Earth fleet suddenly shifted tactics. Instead of continuing to use the Phantom systems, they switched to overwhelming electronic warfare. Every alien communication channel filled with interference. Their targeting systems received false data. Ships began firing at sensor ghosts, or worse, at each other. Vuldarian command vessel is signaling retreat, Ben announced, his voice tight with contained excitement. On the main view screen, the Council blockade was breaking apart, not destroyed. Earth had deliberately avoided causing mass casualties, but thoroughly defeated. Disabled ships drifted, their systems in chaos. The remaining operational vessels were pulling back, attempting to regroup. Lisa opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships report status. The responses came quickly. 3 Earth vessels had sustained moderate damage. None had been destroyed. The careful planning, the years of secret preparation, had paid off. "Captain," said Ben, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." President Wright appeared on screen. "Captain Reynolds, status report. The blockade has been broken, Madam President. Minimal casualties on both sides. Council forces are retreating beyond Neptune's orbit." The President nodded gravely. "Well done. Hold position and prepare for the Council's response." This was only the first move in a longer game. As the President's image faded, Lisa looked at the retreating alien ships. The Council had expected a primitive species to cower before their technological superiority. Instead, they'd encountered an adversary who had studied them carefully and prepared accordingly. The message to the Galactic Council was clear. Humanity would not be subjugated. Dr. Alan Foster walked through the massive underground facility beneath the Martian surface, leading the delegation of Earth government officials. Red dust occasionally drifted down from the ceiling as machinery hummed around them. "Most people think we spent the last 3 years just talking to the Council," Alan explained, stopping at a railing overlooking an enormous production floor. Below them, hundreds of workers assembled components that glowed with strange blue energy. In reality, we were learning everything we could from them while building this. Secretary Diane Powell leaned over the railing. How did we develop all this without the council knowing? Their arrogance, Alan said simply. They monitored our official research channels, but never bothered to check what we were doing in places like this. They didn't think we could understand their technology, let alone improve on it. The group moved to the next section, where scientists worked at quantum terminals, holographic displays showing molecular structures that shifted and changed as they watched. When the council first arrived, they used scanning technology on our ships. What they didn't realize is that we were scanning them right back, Alan continued. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade delegation, we collected data. Their ships run on quantum probability drives. We've made ours 30% more efficient. General Frank Harris nodded approvingly. And the Phantom system? The council seemed completely unprepared for it. Alan smiled. That's our crowning achievement. The council uses linear phase shielding to protect their ships. We discovered that creating a recursive phase loop makes objects virtually undetectable. Their entire sensor technology is based on principles they've used for centuries. We approached the problem differently. They entered a secure viewing room. Through the reinforced glass, they could see massive orbital defense satellites being assembled. These are the real game changers, Alan explained. We've placed hundreds in hibernation mode throughout the solar system. When activated, they form a defense network that can track and target any invading force. The Council will return with a larger fleet, Secretary Powell warned. We're counting on it, replied Alan. Each engagement gives us more data on their capabilities. Besides, we're not limited to our solar system anymore. He pressed a button, and a holographic display showed dozens of small outposts scattered across nearby star systems. Stealth colonies, General Harris asked, surprised. Elan nodded. Using modified Phantom technology, we've established mining operations and small research bases in 17 systems. Some are right under Council noses. The materials we've gathered have fueled our production here. A young scientist approached with a tablet. Dr. Foster, the quantum communication network just picked up Council transmissions. They're mobilizing their main battle fleet. At least 3,000 ships. Instead of showing concern, Alan looked pleased. Right on schedule. They still think quantity is the answer. How can we possibly fight that many? Asked Secretary Powell. We don't need to fight them all, Alan explained. Our intelligence suggests the Council is already fracturing. Several species disagree with this aggression. We only need to demonstrate that attacking Earth is too costly. He led them to a final chamber where a single small device sat on a pedestal. This, Alan said quietly, is our insurance policy. It can disrupt the quantum field that Council ships use for faster-than-light travel. One ship carrying this device can strand an entire fleet in normal space, months or years from home. Have we gone too far? Powell whispered. Created weapons too powerful. Alan shook his head. We've created options. Humanity didn't start this conflict, but we've prepared to finish it if necessary. As they left the facility, emergency lights began flashing. On screens throughout the complex, tactical displays showed Council reinforcements arriving at the edge of the solar system. They're back sooner than expected, General Harris noted. Alan nodded calmly. That's fine. Earth's hidden arsenal is ready. The Council is about to learn that humans don't just adapt to threats. We transform them into opportunities. The Grand Council chamber on Centauri Prime fell silent as the doors swung open unexpectedly. Ambassador Daniel Hughes walked in, flanked by 2 human security officers. His unannounced arrival caused immediate confusion among the alien representatives. This is an outrage. Elder Xerix thundered, rising to his full height. Humans have no standing here after their unprovoked attack on our blockade. Daniel moved calmly to the center of the chamber. Unlike previous human envoys who had appeared nervous in this intimidating space, he carried himself with absolute confidence. I come with a message and evidence the Council needs to hear, he announced, his voice steady. Ambassador Kilara of the Alteran Republic spoke up. Let him speak. The rules of the Council permit even non-members to present grievances. Daniel nodded gratefully to her before addressing the assembly. For 3 years, humanity extended its hand in friendship. For 3 years, we were denied equal standing. When we refused protected status, you blockaded our home. He activated a small device he carried. Holographic displays appeared before each council member. These are recordings and documents proving that several council races violated the council's own laws in their dealings with Earth, Daniel explained. Section 12 of your charter forbids technology suppression against developing species, yet the Vuldarians deliberately sabotaged our colony ships. The evidence was clear. Vuldarian agents had infiltrated Earth's Mars colony program, introducing flaws in life support systems that caused failures. Section 17 forbids unauthorized genetic sampling, Daniel continued. These records show Kildarian scientists took DNA samples from humans without consent to assess our biological weaknesses. General Droth of the Kildarian Collective shifted uncomfortably as his fellow council members turned to stare at him. And finally, this is a recording of Elder Xerix himself, ordering the blockade fleet to provoke a human response that would justify a full-scale invasion. The recording played clearly through the chamber. Xerix's distinctive voice outlined plans to secure Earth's resources and place humans under permanent supervision. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Several species began shouting accusations at each other. The Paxian trade representatives immediately distanced themselves from Xerix's faction. From the shadows, the myriad representative glided forward. The council appears divided, it observed. Perhaps mediation would be appropriate. Lies and fabrications, roared Xerix, though his secondary eyes darted nervously. These humans manipulate data to deceive us. All evidence has been verified by quantum authentication, Daniel replied calmly. The same standard the Council uses for its own records. Kilura stood. I move for an immediate cease of all hostilities against Earth while we investigate these allegations. I second the motion, said the Meridian representative quickly. The evidence is compelling. Daniel watched as the Council's united front crumbled. Species that had long chafed under Vuldarian influence saw an opportunity to realign. Others feared human retaliation if the allegations proved true. Humanity is prepared to return to negotiations, Daniel announced, but as equals, not as subjects. Our fleet stands ready to defend our interests, but we prefer peace. The myriad approached Daniel. Your species moves quickly. Most would have surrendered when faced with our technology. Daniel smiled slightly. Humans have never been good at knowing when we're outmatched. A vote was called. This time, the result surprised even Daniel. 12 species voted to suspend hostilities and launch an investigation into the violations. Only 3 opposed. As Xerix stormed out, his supporters trailing behind him, Ambassador Kilara approached Daniel. You've fractured the Council in a single session, she observed. Some will never forgive humanity for this. We didn't fracture it, Daniel replied. We exposed fractures that were already there. The strong were bullying the weak. That never creates a stable system. The myriad representative made a sound like distant chimes. Fascinating. You came not as supplicants, but as accusers. Most unexpected. Daniel nodded respectfully. Humanity has learned that sometimes the best defense is a diplomatic offense. The battle for Proxima Centauri unfolded across a backdrop of stars and swirling nebula gases. Admiral Nicol Garcia stood on the bridge of the EDF Valiant, Earth's newest flagship. 3-dimensional tactical displays showed the positions of both fleets, 150 human vessels against 400 Council warships. They're deploying in standard Vuldarian formation, reported Tactical Officer Ryan Lewis, 3-tiered defensive shell with heavy weapons at the core. Nicol nodded, unsurprised. They're still fighting by the textbook. Begin Operation Checkmate. The human fleet split into 5 smaller groups that appeared to scatter in different directions. To the Council commanders, it looked like retreat or confusion. Xerx's faction is taking the bait, Ryan said. Their pursuit groups are breaking formation to chase our squadrons. Nickel allowed herself a small smile. Activate quantum communication relays. All ships execute pattern nova on my mark. Throughout the human fleet, captains received their orders simultaneously through the unhackable quantum network. Each understood their role in the complex battle plan that had been rehearsed dozens of times in secret. Mark, Nickel said quietly. The human vessels suddenly changed course in perfect coordination. What had seemed like chaos transformed into a precisely choreographed maneuver. Ships that appeared to be fleeing now converged on the flanks of the alien fleet. Others performed impossible tight turns that the larger council vessels couldn't match. Second phase, Nickel ordered as the first wave of human ships broke through the outer council defenses. The Valiant and its escort group plunged directly toward the enemy command ships at the center of the formation. Phantom systems activated, making them vanish from alien sensors until they were already past the defensive screen. Nickel opened a channel to all Earth ships. Remember, disabled vessels only. We want prisoners, not casualties. The human fleet carried specialized weapons designed to disrupt ship systems rather than destroy them completely. Quantum disruptors targeted engines and weapons while leaving life support intact. Electronic warfare suites overwhelmed alien communications. On the tactical display, Nickel watched as council ships began surrendering one by one. Their crews, realizing they were effectively blind and defenseless, chose survival over pointless resistance. "Admiral," Ryan said suddenly, "we're picking up new signals. Ships are appearing from hyperspace." Nickel tensed, but instead of reinforcing the council fleet, the new arrivals began attacking Xerx's vessels. "We're receiving transmissions," Communications Officer Wendy Baker announced. "It's the Alterans and Meridians. They're declaring themselves allies of Earth." The tide turned completely. Caught between human forces and council species who had broken away from Xerx's leadership, the remaining hostile vessels found themselves outnumbered and outmaneuvered. "General Droth's flagship is signaling surrender," Ryan reported, his voice reflecting the crew's barely contained excitement. Nickel opened a direct channel to the Kildarian vessel. "This is Admiral Garcia. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." On the view screen, General Droth appeared. The Kildarian warrior looked shocked, his armored carapace dulled with stress. "How?" he demanded. "You were primitives just years ago. How did you defeat our best tacticians?" "We studied history," Nickel replied simply. "Our own wars taught us that rigid doctrine always loses to adaptive strategy. You've been fighting the same way for centuries. We invented new tactics for each engagement." As human crews secured captured vessels, Nickel received a priority message from Earth. "Admiral," President Wright said, her image appearing on a private channel, "Xerx has been removed from the council leadership. The moderates are calling for peace talks. Your victory has changed everything." Nickel looked around at her exhausted but triumphant bridge crew. "The fleet performed brilliantly, Madam President. We'll escort our new allies and prisoners back to Earth." Outside the viewports, the combined human and allied fleet regrouped. Ships that had been enemies just hours before now moved in cooperative formation. The Battle of Proxima Centauri would be remembered as the turning point, the moment when humanity proved itself not just equal to the galaxy's oldest civilizations, but in some ways superior. The neutral space station Harmony orbited a small moon in the Ta-Ceti system, its gleaming silver structure reflecting starlight. Inside the Grand Conference Chamber, representatives from 25 species gathered around a circular table. Humans sat alongside aliens of all shapes and sizes, equals at last. President Allison Wright led the Earth delegation, flanked by Admiral Nicole Garcia and Ambassador Daniel Hughes. Across from them sat the reformed Galactic Council leadership. Kilara of the Alterans had replaced Xerx as chief elder. "This historic gathering marks a new beginning," Kilara announced, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. The old council failed to uphold its own principles of justice and equality. Today, we draft a new charter. President Wright nodded. Earth comes to this table not seeking revenge, but partnership. However, we cannot ignore the aggression against our people. The terms proposed by Earth were projected for all to see: equal membership for humanity, reparations for the unprovoked blockade and attacks, and trial for those who had violated galactic law. The myriad representative, still shrouded in shifting gray robes, spoke. Humanity has earned its place through resilience and innovation, but also through mercy. They disabled ships rather than destroying them, spared lives when they could have taken them. From the back of the chamber, former General Droth watched sullenly, now representing a Keldarian government that had overthrown its military leadership after their defeat. The Keldarian Collective accepts these terms, he said reluctantly, and offers additional technological exchanges as restitution. One by one, the species formerly aligned with Xerix agreed to Earth's conditions. Those who had stood with humanity from the beginning offered alliance treaties. There is one more matter, Daniel Hughes said, standing to address the gathering. During our conflict, we discovered numerous species the Council had classified as protected without their knowledge or consent. We propose these civilizations be given the choice to join galactic society on their own terms. This caused murmurs throughout the chamber. The practice of keeping promising species isolated for their own protection had been standard Council policy for millennia. You would undo thousands of years of tradition, asked the Paxian representative. Traditions that serve the powerful at the expense of the developing, Nickel replied firmly. Yes, we would. The debate lasted hours, but ultimately Earth's proposal was accepted. A new galactic charter was drafted, establishing the Interstellar Cooperative in place of the old Council. Power would be shared equally, with rotating leadership and protections for younger civilizations. As the formal signing ceremony concluded, the myriad representative approached President Wright privately. You realize, it said in its soft, melodic voice, that humanity has accomplished in months what some species failed to achieve in centuries. Wright smiled diplomatically. We had good teachers in adversity. Perhaps, the myriad replied, or perhaps this was the outcome we anticipated. What do you mean? Wright asked, suddenly alert. The myriad have observed many species rise and fall. Some become complacent with power, others fearful. We sometimes test promising newcomers. You're saying you allowed the conflict to happen? Wright asked, shock evident in her voice. We allowed events to unfold naturally, but ensured they would not escalate beyond recovery. The myriad explained. Humanity exceeded our expectations. You did not merely survive the test. You transformed the galaxy in the process. Before Wright could respond, the myriad glided away, leaving her to consider its words. 6 months later, a joint human-alien expedition prepared to venture beyond known space. The exploration vessel Unity, commanded by Captain Eric Mason, carried scientists from 12 species. Set course for the galactic rim, Eric ordered, looking at his diverse bridge crew with pride. As the ship accelerated to faster-than-light speed, humans and aliens worked side by side. The conflict that had nearly destroyed them had instead forged something stronger, a true partnership of equals. And somewhere in the vast darkness ahead, new discoveries awaited the combined wisdom of Earth and its galactic allies. Captain Eric Mason stood on the observation deck of the Unity, gazing at the swirling colors of an uncharted nebula. 10 years had passed since the historic peace agreement that transformed galactic society. The ship had ventured farther than any Council vessel had ever traveled, mapping new star systems and making contact with previously unknown species. Beautiful, isn't it? Said Chief Science Officer Lena Parker, joining him at the viewport. The human woman had been with the mission from the beginning. Never gets old, Eric agreed. Any updates from the OA team? They've made contact with the Nexari. Seems peaceful so far. The Universal Translator is working well. The Nexari were the third new species they discovered in this sector alone. Unlike the old Council's approach of observation and containment, the Interstellar Cooperative's policy was open contact and invitation. Eric's communicator chimed. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth," reported Communications Officer Vril, a meridian whose crystalline structure glittered under the ship's lights. "On my way," Eric replied, heading for the bridge with Lena following close behind. The Bridge of the Unity displayed the true nature of the new galactic order. Humans worked alongside Alterans, Meridians, and even a few Kildarians. The old rivalries had gradually faded as they faced the challenges of deep space exploration together. On the main view screen, Admiral Garcia appeared. Though a decade older, she still commanded respect throughout known space. "Captain Mason, congratulations on your discoveries," she began. "But I'm contacting you about a more urgent matter. We've detected unusual energy signatures beyond the galactic rim. The pattern matches myriad technology, but more advanced than anything we've seen before." Eric exchanged glances with his first officer, an Alteran named Telara. "The myriad have been unusually quiet these past few years," he noted. "Exactly," Garcia replied. "And now we know why. They've been building something massive. We need the Unity to investigate." Lena stepped forward. "Admiral, our scans have picked up similar energy patterns in this sector. We thought they were natural phenomena." "They're connected somehow," Garcia confirmed. "Whatever the myriad are doing, it spans the galaxy." After the briefing ended, Eric called his senior staff together. The ship's navigation officer, Kyle Bennett, displayed a star chart showing their current position and the coordinates Garcia had sent. "It'll take us 3 weeks at maximum speed," Kyle reported. "What do you think they're building?" asked Security Chief Maria Rodriguez. "The myriad have always been mysterious, but this seems concerning." Eric shook his head. "They tested us once before. Perhaps this is another test." The Unity altered course, heading toward the unusual energy signature. As they approached 3 weeks later, the sensors detected a massive structure hidden within a dense asteroid field. "It's some kind of gateway," Lena whispered as the structure came into view. A massive ring of unknown material, 30 kilometers in diameter, pulsed with blue-white energy. "We're being hailed," Vril announced suddenly. A myriad appeared on screen, its robes shifting and flowing as always. "Captain Mason, your arrival is timely. What is this structure?" Eric asked directly. "A gateway to what comes next," the myriad replied. "When the cooperative was formed, we knew humanity was ready for the first test. Now we offer the second." "Another test?" Eric asked warily. "Not of conflict, but of understanding," the myriad explained. "This gateway connects to other galaxies. Species that make this journey must be unified, wise, and balanced. The old council could never have achieved this." Eric looked around at his diverse crew. "And you believe we're ready?" "We believe you have earned the opportunity to try," the myriad answered. "Humanity's greatest strength was not your technology or your tactics, but your ability to forge unity from conflict." As the transmission ended, Eric gazed at the massive gateway. Beyond it lay answers to questions no one had yet thought to ask, challenges no single species could face alone. "Prepare a report for Earth," he ordered. "The real journey is just beginning."